Hi, I'm Gene Shepard. I'm an actor, and I'm a novelist, and I'm also an amateur radio operator. And my call is K2ORS. K2 Oscar Romeo Sierra, as we prefer to call it on the band. And I'm probably at the ultimate spot in the world for amateur radio. I'm atop Talcott Mountain, which is a beautiful mountain outside of Avon, Connecticut, the Talcott Mountain Science Center. And this is an amateur radio station, probably the ultimate station in the world. It's maintained by the local amateurs here. And you notice that big disc behind me, that great big round antenna. That's used for such exotic, romantic things as bouncing signals off the moon and contact the Oscar satellite. And we have antennas all around this mountain here that are used for worldwide communications. I mean really worldwide. And I think that's the thing that really gets a guy, first time he gets involved in amateur radio operating is the fact that for the first time the world is just like a little old grapefruit in your hands. Every night sometimes you find yourself talking to England and France and Germany and Russia and Holland, and you get to know people in South Africa, Nigeria, and you're on a first-name basis. And also, there's more to it than that. It's more than just talking to people. You've mastered a technical art. You're part of the technological world of electronics. It's a tough license to get, and you're proud of having that amateur radio license. Proud of passing the code test and passing the technical and legal examinations you have to take, and ultimately you get assigned that call sign. K2ORS, and that's yours. Nobody else in the world has that call sign. It belongs to you, and it kind of becomes part of your name. And in fact, you're known as K2ORS by people. And they don't even call you by your name sometimes. I became a ham when I was 12, and I've been a ham ever since, and it's affected every phase of my life. Now, that's not true of all hams, but it certainly is true in my case. It was through amateur radio that I became a performer, that I became an actor, that I became involved in electronics. Later, when I went into the Army, I became a radar technician. I worked on radar for 3 years, and I can say this, that amateur radio has been probably one of the most important things that ever happened to me. You're looking at K2ORS. Well, look at this fantastic view of the Connecticut River Valley from here up on top of Talcott Mountain. Well, we're going into the classroom now and see how they use Oscar in teaching kids how it works and all the things that it has to teach about astronomy and science. By the way, this is the antenna we're using, this little antenna, because it's built to use a small portable antenna that can be used with classroom work. So come on, let's go in and see what's going on in here.
If you want to figure out where the Oscar satellite is now and when we'll be able to hear it, we're going to have to use our globe and a little information about the satellite. I have been told that Oscar is about 900 miles above the Earth's surface. This means that anyone within 2,400 miles of the spot on Earth that is directly below the satellite will be able to communicate with it. So what I've done is drawn a circle on our globe using our location as its center and with a radius of 2,400 miles. Now this circle will be our range circle, and from the time Oscar enters the circle to the time it leaves the circle, we will be able to hear it. Okay? I was told ahead of time that the satellite crossed the equator at 240 degrees west longitude. This is just where Indonesia is. And this happened at 9 o'clock this morning. Now it is 9:28, so I figured out that the satellite is just over the northern tip of northern Siberia now. And from this point till the time it reaches our range circle, it will be about 5 minutes. All right? Now, how did I figure all this out? Well, obviously I pre-calculated practically the whole thing, but mainly just to save time. We'll go into it more tomorrow. But this is what I did anyways. I knew that the period of revolution, or the time it takes Oscar to make one complete revolution around the Earth, is 150 15 minutes, or 1 hour and 55 minutes. I measured the circumference of the globe, and I got about 33 inches as its circumference. So this means that the satellite will travel these 33 inches in 115 minutes. This averages out to about 3.5 minutes per inch. Now, at 9:28, it was 28 minutes since the satellite had crossed the equator. Remember, I said that happened at 9 o'clock. So this corresponds to about 8 inches on the globe. And measuring off this 8 inches will bring us to just over northern Siberia. From the point over northern Siberia to within our range circle is about another 1.5 inches, and this corresponds to the 5 minutes, okay, that we will be able to hear it in. Now let's leave this for a moment and let's cover some basics about the satellite. Something has to keep the satellite up, and you're probably familiar now with those two things are. Those are two forces which we call gravity and inertia. Oscar was so launched that it will keep moving due to inertia, and it will move around the Earth due to gravity. Okay? If we take away the inertia, the satellite is going to fall right to Earth. If we take away the gravity, it's going to drift off into space. Okay? Now, I mentioned before how Oscar was a communication satellite. Well, who can we communicate with? The orbital characteristics of this satellite are such that we can make contact with people all over the world, okay, in all the continents. Now, speaking about orbits, the particular orbit that Oscar is in is 102 degrees. The orbit looks like this. All right? This 102 degrees is called the angle of inclination. This is the angle that the orbit makes with our equator. Now, looking at the globe, you can say, well, there's probably an infinite number of orbits that a satellite could be put into, and this is correct. Well, let's go over just a few of them right now. One of them would be an orbit where the satellite goes directly over the equator. This is what we call a 0-degree orbit. A special type of 0-degree orbit is a synchronous orbit, and this occurs when the rotation of the Earth matches the speed of the satellite. The satellite always seems to be in the same position at all times. Another type of orbit would be one where the satellite travels directly over the poles. As you might expect, this is what we call a polar orbit. And the angle that this orbit makes with the equator is 90 degrees. Okay? It looks like just about time that we're going to be able to hear the satellite. Would there by any chance be a ham in the room that might be able to explain a little bit about the ham equipment to us before we make some contacts?
That's me, gang. Thank you, Donna. Okay, I'm ready to go to work here. And I always love to play with beautiful equipment. All set class here to talk to Oscar and see what's going on. I have to cheat a little bit here because I've set up a couple of contacts for us. And I'll explain a little bit about what the equipment is here. First of all, this is the receiver. The signals that come in from Oscar come in on what we call the 10-meter band, or the 29 megacycle band. And the Oscar receives signals on another band. Of course, this is a system where it's almost a two-signal system. And here's our transmitter, and this is the final of the transmitter. Actually, our signals here are generated here, and they're converted, and the final puts it out on the 2-meter band, or the 144 megahertz band. And that's what we're going to be transmitting on today. Now, the receiver is all tuned to the frequency of Oscar. We're all set. And I've set up a QSO, Donna, or a contact, with a man who has the call of VE2BYG. This is northern Quebec. And he's way up there in the north. His name is Randy, and he's all set to talk to us. And so anytime you're ready to go, just tell me. And incidentally, the call sign we're going to use here is K1ZND. That's the call of the station that we're licensed at. So anytime,
I'm a little jittery right now to talk. Do you think we could just listen to something?
All right, we'll listen to see what's going in on the band. In fact, there's always something going in on Oscar when it's in tune. So let's give it a tune here, and I'll just bring it up. There they are. That sounds like a German and probably an Englishman. Yeah, that's an Englishman.
I can understand it.
Well, the problem with understanding single sideband, Donna, is that your ear gets used to it. It's a single sideband system, and it's kind of interesting that your ear finally adjusts to it, and eventually it sounds very, very plain to you. So you just got to practice a little bit. All right, are you all set now?
Okay, well, before I make that contact, I want to explain a little bit, some more things to my students before I actually do it. First of all, while I'm making this contact, I want you to be aware of just how our signals are traveling. So I'm going to make a diagram on the board here. This is what we call Earth, okay? This will be the Oscar satellite that is presently up now. Let this X be our location, and let this X be the location of VE2BYG. Now, my signals aren't going directly to VE2BYG's location, but what they are doing is traveling up to the satellite and then are reflected back to Earth in this manner. All right? It is not a direct communication. Another thing I hope we can demonstrate during this contact is an effect we call the Doppler shift. Some of you may be familiar with this. Well, what we are doing is using single sideband voice transmission, and a characteristic of this is that the voice pitch will change in proportion to the Doppler shift. Okay? We can compensate for this, or we could get the voice in clearly just by readjusting our receiver.
Now, tuning the receiver area.
Okay, but if we do not retune, then we will be able to observe this Doppler shift as the amateur's voice pitch changes. Okay? Let me explain Doppler shift in another manner. I'm sure all of you are familiar with a train. Okay, a train going by. As a train goes by, the sound gets lower. Now listen. Hear that? This is another demonstration of the Doppler shift. This effect is occurring at the same time. It's not only talking over the radio that we can observe this. Okay? Now, as I call VE2BYG, we're going to turn up the volume on our receiver so that you can hear my voice being transmitted back from the satellite. Remember, Oscar is what we call sort of like a relay station, a radio repeater. It takes all the signals that it receives and it transmits them back to Earth. Not only will VE2BYG be able to hear my voice, but we'll be able to hear it also.
And there'll be a slight time differential in there. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All set?
Here goes. VE2BYG in Northern Canada. This is K1ZND. Calling VE2BYG in Northern Canada. This is K1ZND.
K1ZND, this is VE2BYG. K1ZND, this is VE2BYG.
VE2BYG, this is K1ZND. Name here is Donna. I'm holding a class today, and we're studying about space science, and we're using Oscar in our approach. Right now, I just mentioned about the Doppler shift, so I was wondering, could you talk a while so we could listen to your voice pitch change as a result of this Doppler shift? VE2BYG, this is K1ZND.
This is VE2BYG in Northern Canada. My name is Randy. We're having a pretty decent snowstorm up here today. Should leave us quite a few inches. As you're listening to me, Oscar is passing over south of Greenland and heading toward the Atlantic Ocean. So the satellite is going almost full speed toward the southern United States. Oscar is traveling at an altitude of about 910 miles above the Earth, traveling at a speed of over 7,000 meters per second. That's about 4.3 miles. So, Donna, tell me how the Doppler shift sounds. By now, my voice must sound pretty funny if you haven't readjusted your receiver. K1ZND, This is
VE2BYG, this is K1ZND. Good morning, Randy. Yes, we did retune our receiver so that we could hear your voice coming in clearly again, but it really was a good demonstration of the Doppler shift. Well, right now I think we're going to move along and listen to some telemetry coming from Oscar. So, VE2BYG, this is K1ZND.
Hi, Donna. I think I'll listen to the telemetry too. This is VE2BY.
No, retune, yeah.
Okay, good. While he's retuning and getting in the telemetry, Brian, you're studying a little bit about Morse code, aren't you, or a lot about it? Why don't you take down some of this information so we can record it and everybody else can see it? Okay? While they're both busy, I'm going to do a little bit more explaining. I mentioned telemetry, but I don't know how many of you really know what telemetry is. Well, telemetry is the language that is used by satellites to indicate their temperature, their voltages, electrical properties of this nature. On the satellite, there are sensors that detect this information and transmit them back to our receiver. Let me explain telemetry even better. Take the word telemetry itself. Okay, it is made up of two Greek words, tele, meaning distance, and metron, meaning to measure. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're measuring at a distance. But telemetry doesn't always have to apply just to satellites and things in space. We can also apply it to something else. Think of a car, okay? A car's engine has sensors on it, which send us information by means of wires. This information might be the oil level, the gas level, the speed, things of this nature. Also, you may have either seen, heard of, or had mentioned about an indoor-outdoor thermometer. Okay, I brought one into class today so I could show you. We can understand telemetry by using this also. This cylinder here is the sensor. It is connected to the thermometer by means of this wire. The sensor is placed on the outside of, say, a window or a house or something like this, and the thermometer is on the inside. So this sensor detects the outdoor temperature, and it transmits it to the thermometer, so we can just read the temperature from inside. Okay? Going back to Oscar now, there are different ways that the satellites can send their telemetric data to us. Two of those ways I'm going to explain now. One has to do with audio sound. Let's take temperature, for instance. The satellite will send a certain sound which depends upon the degree of temperature of the satellite. For instance, if the pitch of the sound is low, we can be assured that the satellite is pretty cold. If the pitch of the sound is high, the satellite has gotten warmer. The Oscar satellite that was up previous to the one that's up now used this type of method to send its telemetric data, right? Am I correct?
Sure.
But the satellite that is up now doesn't use audio sound. It uses Morse code. This code is sent to the amateur at about 10 or 20 words per minute. Okay? It's read by the amateur and then translated into words and numbers that we can better understand. Brian, how'd you do?
Pretty good.
Did you finish this? Okay, good. He's got 24 different items on here because there's 24 different bits of information we could get back from Oscar. Let me put down, right here it says that the temperature
Solid copy.
of Oscar right now, or at the time it was taken, was 87 degrees Fahrenheit. And looking at this information, I see a pretty high current reading on one of the solar panels. And this indicates that the satellite was facing towards the sun at this time. Okay. Gene, do you think we could make one more
Want to try another contact? Okay. I've set you up with a guy down in North Carolina, beautiful country down there.
Oh, good.
K4 Texas, India.
Okay.
And he's all set to talk, so anytime you're ready to go, let's pop right in there. You should be hanging in. Ready?
Okay, before I talk, I want to explain another thing that we're going to demonstrate during this contact, and that has to do with radio fluctuations, the fluctuations of the radio signals coming from Oscar. Okay? You will be able to not only see, but hear these variations of radio signals. First, we have a meter here, all right, that has to do with our receiver. Watch the needle on the meter. As this needle changes, this indicates that there has been a variation.
Yeah, this shows the
signal.
output of the receiver, and you can just tell the level of it, yeah.
Okay.
It's better known as an S meter.
S meter, fine. And another thing, as you're listening, to the sound, you'll hear a change in the intensity. This is also an indication of signal fluctuations. I'd like to explain a couple ways that cause these fluctuations. I only want to go into two of them, though. One of them has to do with the satellite actually tumbling in space. Okay? As the satellite tumbles, the antennas also tumble. So they are not always facing towards us in a favorable direction. Think of moving your TV antenna in a wrong direction. Your TV reception will be poor. Same type of thing. Another reason is a phenomenon we call the Faraday rotation. Briefly, how this works is as the radio signals pass through the ionosphere, this effect rotates these signals. So they do not always arrive at our antenna at the same degree of strength. And again, we have a variety. As you watch the meter, you will not be able to discriminate between these two factors or any other causes of the fluctuations because they all basically have the same effect on the signals.
Yeah, this just shows the signal strength.
Right.
Yeah, and you'll see it vary. All set now?
Okay, I think so.
Okay, old K4TI should be ready and waiting, so give them a call. K4 Texas, India. That's the call. Press the button. We're ready to go.
Okay. Calling K4TI, K4TI, K4TI. This is K1ZND.
K1ZND, K4TI. Good morning, Donna. My name is Bill. Your signals are not too good this morning. Please go.
K4TI, this is K1ZND. Sorry about those signals, Bill. Right now I'm holding a class and we're studying a little bit about space science and about Oscar. We've been talking about how the radio signals coming from Oscar fluctuate, and we're looking at our meter, which indicates your signal strength. I was wondering, could you turn your signals on continuously so we could watch? K4TI, this is K1ZND.
Roger, roger, roger. I will key the transmitter. K1ZND, K4TI.
Yeah, that goes as K.
Yes, it might.
See? Yeah, see if
K1ZND, K4TI. Was that okay, Donna?
K4TI, this is K1ZND. Thanks a lot, Bill. You were a great help. We really could see the needle move. Well, by the way, I have one of my students in this class, Raymond, who wanted to say hi to you. So, you mind saying a few things to him? K4TI, this is K1ZND.
Roger, roger. K1ZND, K4TI. Morning, Raymond. I hope you're enjoying the NASA AMSAT demonstration of communications via the Oscar radio satellite. I live in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. Weather here this morning is rainy and the temperature is 34 degrees. Oscar's going south towards the equator and will soon be out of rain, so now I wish you a good day, and in case I miss you, goodbye. K1ZND, K4TI, go ahead.
K4TI, this is K1ZND. It's really been great talking to you, Bill. Thanks a lot for your help. K4TI, this is K1ZND.
Okay, thanks, Donna. Well, that's all there is to it. Actually, it's a little more complicated than it looks,
Think we could make another contact?
You want to try another one?
Sure.
All right.
He was saying something about it going out of range. I was wondering if we could still try to...
All right. Usually, you know, when they're on the edge of the range, you sometimes may be able to pick somebody up way out at the edge. Let's give it a try. This is Kilo 1 ZND, K1ZND, listening on Oscar satellite for any possible calls. Let's try it again. This is K1ZND, listening on Oscar satellite for a call. Okay, someone please. Drew a blank. Okay, I'll turn the receiver down here now. Well, that's about it, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Have you enjoyed it, class? It was really interesting. And listen, any of you out there who... by the way, Don, I might add that you make a natural-born ham. You've got that call, you grab that mic like you mean it.
Thanks a lot.
And any of you out there who would like to find out more about amateur radio, it's a fantastic hobby and it's a whole new world. Just send the card to ARRL, American Radio Relay League, Newington, Connecticut. And they'd be glad to give you all the information that you need about getting a license, how you go about it. And if you're a teacher and you'd like to use Oscar and the NASA setup here that you've seen in this little film in teaching in your area, be sure to write the ARRL and tell them about it. ARRL, Newington, Connecticut, and they have this excellent curriculum supplement. If you'd like to teach satellites and the whole science and mathematics and physics of the satellite, they'd be glad to send it to you. Again, the address is ARRL, American Radio Relay League, Newington, Connecticut. Donna, it's been great.
Thanks a lot for your help, Gene.
It's been a lot of fun, and class, maybe a couple of you ought to get your license and get on the band and work Oscar yourself. Think you may do it? Okay, gang. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later. It's been fun.
Well, we found out that we couldn't make any more contacts because the satellite did go out of range.
Well, this is pretty fantastic, isn't it? We've seen how the Oscar works and how people can talk to Germany and France and North Carolina, and how you can be taught astronomy, physics, and science, and all sorts of things, all wrapped up into one in this fantastic world of communications. I'm Gene Shepard, K2ORS, saying 73, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to see what's going on at 20 now. Maybe there's a band opening.